Hi all, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do a 2023 yearly wrap-up. Let's get started. To start off the year, I started with Kindle Unlimited membership at the beginning of, maybe towards the end of January of last year. I think this month makes me a year with Kindle Unlimited. So a lot of my beginning books were all Kindle Unlimited until I started accumulating some more of my own. So I will be talking about the books I read, what I rated them, any comments if I have them, and how I read the book, whether it's Kindle, Kindle Unlimited, physical, audiobook. I'll let you know. So that way also you can find out where to get it if you so want it, depending on how you want to read it. But these are how I read these books. So first up in January, I read Hooked by Emily McIntyre. It is the first book in the Never After series. And this series is all standalones that take a twist on Disney fairy tales with our main character, protagonist, whatever you want to call him, as the villain. So in the case of Hooked, we're following Captain Hook, and I think they call him James Hook. It takes the story, there are familiar names in it, so they really connect the Peter Pan story with the reimagining, which is really cool. I rated Hooked a 4-star. It was really, really good. I think between this and my next one, they were kind of like flip-flopped between 4 and 5 stars, but on Goodreads, I ended up rating them 4. Now, mind you, they were fantastic. Very good way to kick off the year. But just also a heads up, my rating system, I do flat star ratings. I don't do any of that point whatever. I just strict. It's either 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. There's no really in between for me. It makes it then hard for me to keep up, you know? Now, yes, there are some of my 4 stars are better than other 4 stars in my mind, yes, but if I do that whole point system, it gets confusing to me. So then the second one I read was Scarred, which is Never After book number 2, following our main character is Tristan, who is representing Scar in the Lion King. Even though Hooked named everybody directly, Scar does not, but all the names are different, but they still follow like some ideas from the Lion King, with putting it on that dark romance twist. Now, these are all dark romances, but it's taking the villain and elements of the Disney fairy tale and putting the spin on a dark romance. So this one was really cool as well. It was another one that was between a 4 and 5-star. I ended up putting it as a 4-star in Goodreads, but they are both solid reads. Up next, I read So Not Meant to Be by Megan Quinn. This is I believe it's a 3-book series called The Kane Brothers, but they are all, again, standalone books. And in her case, these books have like the same characters from like the same universe, the same town, like friends of friends, you know? And this is particularly the second book of the series. Now, if I'm looking over here to the side, it's because I have my iPad up with my list of books and synopses. So this one is enemies to lovers, close proximity. Pretty much he's handsome and she just refuses to be persuaded by him and charmed by him. And so it becomes like this, they work together and they end up going on a work trip and end up in close proximity, and it's pretty much her trying not to fall for him. It was really cute. I rated that one a 4-star. Next, I read Wretched, which is Never After number 3 by Emily McIntyre, and I rated this a 3-star. Wretched follows the character that is essentially takes on the Wicked Witch of the West. Now, I found Wretched to be, and the reason I went all the way down to a 3-star for it is like there was a disconnect for me from Hooked and Scarred to Wretched. I felt like, yes, it's supposed to be the Wicked Witch of the West, but the story that was built around it felt very disconnected from the tale that we know. And I know that it's not supposed to be directly, that it's based off of and it's twisted, but I feel like this was twisted too far, if that makes sense. But again, my personal opinion. But I mean, the story itself was pretty good, but I think I held it at higher expectations, which in my mind then dropped it down a level. So yeah. Next, I started the Shadowbound Queen series. The first book is Court of Ravens and Ruin. This book and this series I have rated a 5-star book and series. I found it done incredibly well. It's a story about, there's all different courts around, and the king of the Shadow Court ends up kidnapping one of the humans from the Gold Court, and the Gold Court slave manipulates gold to make staffs for the elves. You've got the elves and then you've got the humans, and in kidnapping her, and she ends up betrothed to him, and it's this whole enemies to lovers, and what I love about it is that the enemies to lovers spans the course of all of the books. And it's like, it's very drawn out, and for the sake of this story, I love that. Like, each book is connected so beautifully, and it builds on the story and the relationship between the two. I then read the sequel, Court of Greed and Gold, which I also rated 5 stars. I'm not going to say too much about the sequels, only because if you start reading it, I don't want to give you too much information. So I'll leave that for you to find out. And I just realized I've been telling them about how I've been reading this. All of the books so far, Hooked, Scarred, So Not Meant to Be, Wretched, and the Shadowbound Queen series have all been read on my Kindle, through Kindle Unlimited. I have read all of these books through my Kindle. And then up next, I read The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. And this was like, it's psychological, and it's so good. And I love it because the tagline for this one is, his mistress is dead and his wife is the only hope. Because his wife is, or now ex-wife, is a lawyer. And so it's really, really cool how he then has to rely on his ex-wife to solve the crime of his mistress and the reason that they divorced. So it was really interesting. I read The Perfect Marriage through Kindle Unlimited. Up next, we have the Mindfuck series. Now, the Mindfuck series can be read in 2 ways. It can be read as a full unit, or it can be read as 5 different short pieces. It's like they're like slightly longer than a novella, I guess you could say, but they're also like, you can read them as a whole because they go boom, 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 boom. And guys, this is 5 stars for me. It was so good. And what's really cool about it is that our 2 main characters, it's romance. And it's a serial killer and an officer, detective. I don't remember his title. What's his title? There's not much on Goodreads about it, but so she's a serial killer and he works with the FBI, and they end up connecting, and he ends up working one of her cases, and it becomes this whole thing of, does she give everything up for the romance, or does she do everything she can to go for her end goal as a serial killer? And so it's really, really cool. Absolutely loved it. And it does mess with your mind. It's like really cool. So then next I read the 3rd book of the Shadowbound Queen series, which is Court of Monsters and Malice, which I gave 5 stars. Loved it. Like I said, this entire series was fantastic for me. It's like I couldn't put it down. Up next is the Hades Trials by Eliza Reign. I gave this one a 5-star as well. Of course, it's based off of Hades and Persephone, and Persephone comes in, and the goal is to do all of these trials to win Hades. And I found it really cool and there's some twists in there, and it's really really good. Up next, I read The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. This is a self-help book that was recommended to me. I did not rate it only because it's a self-help book. There's nothing really to rate, but I did enjoy it was good. I enjoyed it. Up next, we have The Housemaid, which I rated 4 stars, and The Housemaid's Secret I rated 5 stars. This series is a psychological thriller, and they follow, in the first book, we're following the housemaid and the family that she then mates for. As really both of them are kind of set up this way, where she's mating for a family. And it's just, like I said, it's a psychological thriller, so they were fantastic. Highly recommend both books if you have not read them. Honestly, some of my favorite reads this year. We then have Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. It was really cute. This one I did rate 5 stars. It was really, really cute. It's about the son of the US president and the son of the prince of the UK and their relationship, and it's really cute. It's another kind of enemies to lovers, but it's just one of those, like, yeah, enemies, but yeah, like not really. But it's actually really, really cute. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and then I watched the movie as well. Next we have Divine Rivals, which I did rate 5 stars, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, do I have to say anything about Divine Rivals? Because, like, hello? One of the top books of this year. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And at this time that I'm filming, Ruthless Vows just released. But I'm in no rush to read it, only because I read Divine Rivals as a Kindle Unlimited book, whereas Ruthless Vows are not in Kindle Unlimited. So I'm not, and I read it so early in the year. I read it in, what is that, July? So I'm not in any rush to get through it. And again, I think all of these, I do apologize. The Gifts of Imperfection I read on my Kindle, but I bought it and read it on my Kindle. I own The Gifts of Imperfection. Everything else so far has been Kindle Unlimited, so you can find Divine Rivals, Red, White, and Royal Blue, The Housemaid and its sequel, The Hades Trials, the Mindfuck series, all on Kindle Unlimited. We'll see if I stay on this the rest of the time. So after Divine Rivals, I read The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. It's the book number 1 of the Dreamland Billionaire series. And I rated this one 4 stars. Thoroughly. I enjoyed this entire series. This one is the brother Rowan is getting up in the ranks of what they are calling Dreamland. It's kind of like an off Disney World kind of story, and it's really, really cool. And so it's one of the brothers is trying to get up in the line of Dreamland, and his newest hire kind of like gets on him, but like more in a cute way. It's kind of like she's cute and she's quick-witted, and it's just eventually like they start like clicking, you know? It's really, really cute. After that, we have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It's a fiction. I don't know if you would consider it literary or contemporary. I can never remember the difference, but it's just a standard fiction about 2 best friends who it's across pretty much, we learn about them across their lives. And they grow up and they make video games together. And it's their life from when they were kids to, well, kind of like starts in the middle, but like as we progress in their adult lives, we learn about them as kids and how they've grown up and worked together, and it takes them through like a good chunk of their lives. It's really, really cool. And it was really interesting because it's like it's a set of friends who are making video games. It's like you don't see that. I've never seen that. So it was a really cool read, and I did give it a full 5 stars. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow I read through the library. I used the app Libby with my library card connected, linked up to my Libby, and I rented it there, had it for 2 weeks, and read it on my Kindle because I could. So rather than just reading through the Libby app on my phone, I was able to do it on my Kindle. So that was good. And then I read The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther. I know she's had a few books now, but is that the pronunciation, Walther? I read that through Kindle Unlimited, I think. It was either Kindle Unlimited or I rented it from the library. I don't remember. But it was cute. I gave it 3 stars. It was cute, but it was just kind of like for me, it was just a generic romance. Like nothing really like hit hard for me, but it was cute. I then read the first book of the Crescent City series, The House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas. I rated it a 4-star. For the length of it, honestly, like I didn't think it was going to be rated very high just because Sarah J Maas is known for her world building, or at least that's what I've noticed between reviews and excerpts and just just looking into the works a little bit. She seems very into world building, and so it wasn't until halfway through and of an 800-page book, that's a lot, it started picking up, and I just absolutely loved it. And I am planning this whole first month of January of 2024, I plan on just doing a Sarah J Maas month. I am currently finishing up Iron Flame. I think I only have about 150 pages left. And then I'm going to go straight into House of Sky and Breath and just keep going through her work. Because this is the only Sarah J Maas that I've read so far. I'll read House of Earth and Blood because also at the end of January, House of Flame and Shadow, is it House of Flame and Shadow, I think, comes out. And then I own the entire Throne of Glass series. And I own Assassin's Blade and Throne of Glass. All of Sarah J Maas's books I own on my Kindle, just because, in all honesty, they're chonkers. I don't have room for them. In all honesty, this one shelf are all of my books, and then I have a few others over here. I've got some hardcovers over here because that's the only place I can put them after Christmas. So right now I'm a little tight for physical books, but also because they're chonkers, and I know later in Throne of Glass you can do a tandem read between Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms. Hope I got those right because that was off the top of my head. So I do planning on reading them all on my Kindle just to make it easier for me. So then after that I read Caraval. I read the very first book of Caraval and rated it 4 stars. I enjoyed Scarlett's character and her story. I mean, the whole series for me was a 4-star series. It was really good. Not too many notes on it, but it was good. After that, I read Terms and Conditions, which is the second book in the Dreamland Billionaire series. And in this one, we follow Declan, who is planning to be the next CEO, and the thing with him is that his story is a marriage of convenience trope. The whole overarching thing with the Dreamland Billionaire series is that their grandfather was CEO, head of Dreamland, and when he passed, he left clauses in his will for each of his grandchildren to follow, and if they were to follow the clause, they were to do their part of the will, they then get their inheritance. If they do not complete their assignment from the will, they don't get their inheritance. And all 3 of them have to complete their clause to get their inheritance. So, Declan, the oldest, is trying to become CEO, and in order to do so, he has to get married and have a kid. I think he has to be married and have at least 1 child within a certain time frame. So his story is a marriage of convenience. And honestly, it's a really good tale. I love him and his partner were real cute. Oh, and I rated Terms and Conditions 5 stars. Actually, earlier this year, there were a few that I kind of put in here just to bring up my list. So these aren't probably necessarily in order, but up next I physically got Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry. Because I'm a big Friends fan. I've seen the series twice and just have so far fallen in love with it. Over this past Christmas, I got the DVD set of the series and have started watching it again with all of its like special features and stuff, which is really cool. And so, but I also had gotten and read the book before he passed. But of course, I got this for Christmas last year. I read it. It was a great read, a really, really great read, and showed us exactly what he was dealing with while he was making Friends and projects surrounding the time frame as well. And I did not rate it only because it's a memoir. I'm not going to rate any of the memoirs that I read just because it's a it's a telling of that person's life and what they want to tell you. It's like, I don't think these are meant to be rated. I also attempted to read Flawless, the first book in the Chestnut Springs series, because I've heard a lot of stuff about this. Small town, cowboy romance, but the first one is a bull rider, is the guy, and there's something about it that it wasn't catching me. It wasn't catching me. I didn't make it very far before I DNF'd. I'm getting tired of this. I don't know if it's the small town country romance or if there's just something about it. Like, in all honesty, I probably won't naturally pick up a romance like that. I ended up DNFing that book and have not picked it up since. So, and I don't think I'm going to, and that's okay. I mean, it's not my cup of tea. Like, that happens. So up next, I read Final Offer, which is the third book in the Dreamland Billionaire series, and I rated this one 5 stars. The last brother, Callahan, is sent off to their summer home, and he is tasked with living in it for the summer and then selling the house. Little did he know that his childhood best friend was going to affect the selling of the house, and it's all following their relationship, and I find it really, really cute. This was my favorite of all 3 of them. So up next, I read the 4th and final book of the Court of the Shadowbound Queen, which is Court of Serpents and Secrets. I ended up rating this one 3 stars. Like, the other 3 were 5-star reads. This one dropped all the way down to a 3, and I'm so mad about it because the final conclusion was down into the last 50 pages of the book, and it was just so much action, boom, 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 all crunched into 50 pages, and I'm like, really? It was done over so quickly. I'm like, you couldn't have expanded on that a little bit? It's just very nice, and then ending, and then action, and then conclusion. I'm like, what? That ending, don't get me wrong, I love the ending. I love the entire series, 5-star series, but it's just the way that the final book ended bugged me. Absolutely bugged me. And then after that, I finished Caraval series and read Legendary, which I rated 4 stars, and then Finale, I rated 3 stars. I own the Caraval series, because I still have not been keeping up on this. I am so sorry, guys. But the Caraval series I do own. I own it and read it on my Kindle. So I read it here. My stickers are falling. Go figure. And from all the movement. So Tell a Story was very good too. I enjoyed how they did a story on each sister. There was something about Tell a Story that's just, I thought I was gonna like Scarlet more, because I know a lot of people love Tell a Story, and I did too. Something in my mind just loved Scarlet's story as well. But upon finishing Legendary, I'm like, I see why people like Tell a Story. And then Finale, I found interesting. It was good, don't get me wrong, but there was just something about it that it's now that we've expanded the story of the 2 girls, now there's a 3rd book of them involved in Caraval. It's kind of it was kind of weird, but it was, like I said, it was also good. It was just, like I said, I rated it 3 stars. It was just kind of it is what it is. Up next, I am a huge Nightmare Before Christmas fan. I work in the schools, and so we had a book fair a while back, and so I found Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shay Earnshaw. Now, this is a middle grade book. The font is on the bigger side, but I'm like, it's Nightmare Before Christmas. It's Sally. I have to read it. It was really cute, guys. Okay, I rated it a 3 star, but I think that's also just because it's meant for middle grade, so it's young for me. But just knowing that I own the book and have read the book is enough for me. I did enjoy it. And it talks about Sally finding, learning her place as queen, transitioning from nobody knowing her to everybody recognizing her, and Sally, Sally, Sally. And so it's a lot with her coming to terms with her new position. I then read The Inmate by Freida McFadden. I did rate this a 5 star. Now, I read Freida McFadden is also the author of Housemaid and Housemaid's Secret. I loved it. 5 stars. Did not see it coming I feel it's like I need to find more of her stuff. I had a whole list of stuff that I wanted to read off of Kindle Unlimited by her. Absolutely loved it. I read The Inmate via audiobook. I rented it from Libby, but it can also be found on Kindle Unlimited. I started using audiobooks towards the end of the year to use on my car rides to and from work, and just increased my reading numbers a little bit, and it's kind of fun just listening to them in the car. I didn't want to stop listening to it. It's really, really good. Up next, and I feel like I read this one earlier in the year, but I guess I read it in September, according to Goodreads. I read The Girl in Cabin 13 by A.J. Rivers. It's part of the Emma Griffin FBI mystery series. Now, this series is a massive series. It's not meant to be, I don't think it's meant to be read. It's kind of like it's just all of these books follow her, Emma Griffin, on her cases. And in the case of this one, Emma is taken out of the field for 6 months, and then in order to get back into the field, she has to succeed at this job that she's taking on. So she goes to this really small town. The deaths are real, like, they're unsure about a lot. And so she goes down and she's living in Cabin 13 while she's down there. And it's just learning the town, learning the people, trying to figure out what's happening in this town and why there are so many deaths. This was another one. I didn't see it coming. Like, it was done very well. I rated it 4 stars. Up next, I listened to, The Girl in Cabin 13 is a Kindle Unlimited book. And then also, through Libby, I listened to the audiobook Watching You by Lisa Jewell. I only got about 50% of the way, and I'm like, I was struggling. I think there were too many stories. Some of the information was just bugging me in general. And so I ended up DNFing it, which is fine. I mean, I only DNF'd 2 books this year. Up next, I read Daughter of the Pirate King. I read it through Kindle Unlimited. I rated it 5 stars. It was fantastic. I loved this. It follows a girl who's captain of her own ship, and her parents, one is the Pirate King and the other is a Siren Queen. And what's neat about her is that, because typically those who have relations with sirens typically don't live. Like, this Pirate King is the only one ever to be known to survive a relationship with a siren. And so now we follow the daughter dealing with stuff that her father's getting into and stuff like that. So it was so good. 5-star, guys. After that, I read Starling House by Alex E. Harrow, and it's one of my Book of the Month books. I believe it's my October book, and I rated it 4 stars. It's a gothic book, and I tried annotating it a little bit. I was just marking tabs. I didn't actually like mark anything inside, but it's like this gothic haunted house book. It was really good. I really liked what it did. And then up next, I read the sequel to Daughter of the Pirate King of Daughter and the Siren Queen. And so now we kind of get more of her mother's side and get to learn more about her mother and who she is as an individual, because not only is she a pirate, but she also has the ability to be a siren. So she's like half and half, and it becomes like her battle between being a human and being a siren. And it was done very well. Daughter of the Pirate Queen, Daughter of the Siren Queen were written by Tricia Levenseller. Really good. There is a 3rd book called Vengeance of the Siren Queen, I think, and I have not read that one yet. I then read Cinder, which is the 1st book in the Lunar Chronicles. Cinder is written by Marissa Meyer, and I gave it a 5 stars. It was really, really cool. The Lunar Chronicles takes Disney tales and like reworks them. So Cinder, of course, is following Cinderella, but in her case, she still has the stepmother and the stepsisters, but she's a cyborg. She's like half human, half robot, but she's also a mechanic. And so it's very cool how they do the story between her and the prince. And what's really cool is that now Cinder's story will travel throughout the rest as the series progresses, because I think Cinder landed on a cliffhanger. and you can get the whole Lunar Chronicles on Kindle Unlimited. But it was a really good retelling. I liked the way that it was done. I then did, at the end of October, I did a reread of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Actually, it was more the end of October, beginning of November. I did a reread of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I read it originally when it had come out because we were planning on seeing the movie, which we did. Loved it. And so that was the one reread that I did this year because I wanted to make sure I read it again before I saw it. And then up next, I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I rated it 5 stars. It was fantastic. Now, there are triggers. It does talk about abuse in marriages and other things, so just be aware that there are triggers in this book, and it is not for the faint of heart. Like, Colleen Hoover gets into the information. It's like, it was really good. It's not what I expected, but I enjoyed it very much. But just a heads up, look into the triggers. Up next, I read The Camp by Nancy Bush. This and the next book can both be found on Kindle Unlimited. I was reading it for a readathon. I only gave it a 2-star. It's a thriller, and I just didn't care for it. It didn't grip me at all. 2 stars. It's my only book that I did below a 3-star. And then up next is 'Tis the Season for Revenge. It's part of a Seasons for Revenge series, but they are also all standalones as far as I'm aware. And by Morgan, and this 'Tis the Season for Revenge is by Morgan Elizabeth. And honestly, I rated it a 5-star. I absolutely loved it. Now, going into it, I was just like, oh, it's gonna be this simple, cheesy romance. No. Hello, smut. A lot of smut in this one. Just a heads up. It is not your typical, it's not a typical cheesy romance. It's a smutty one. And it's great. 5 stars. Up next, I read Atomic Habits, which is a self-help book by James Clear. So I did not rate it, but I had heard such great things about it and wanted to check it out. And I listened to this one via audiobook. Next, I read The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I can never remember. I listened to this through Libby via audiobook, but I do own a physical copy, but just due to timing and stuff, I ended up reading it. I could get it through Libby, so I read it as an audiobook. And it's another psychological thriller. I absolutely loved it. It had me on the edge of my seat, guys. 5 stars. And then I also listened to It Starts With Us, which is the sequel to It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I rated it 4 stars. It was so good. Like, honestly, guys, if you're gonna read the series, read both, because the second one was just... And then I read Fourth Wing twice. I think the first time I read it was actually back in September. I read it as an audiobook. I listened to it. I was able to get my hands on it right away because I wasn't sure if I fully wanted to own it just because the hype was so big. And so I ended up loving it. And about this, I didn't want to like physically own it until I knew that I wanted to. And so when I heard that they were coming out with the special edition, the holiday edition of Fourth Wing, on the same day that Iron Flame was coming out, I'm like, okay, I'm owning it, because I absolutely loved it as the audiobook. So I then bought it. When I did buy it, I bought physical copy. So I have Fourth Wing with the black edges. I did annotate the hell out of it because I loved it so much the first time. But honestly, now going into Iron Flame, I did this a little too much, but honestly, it's fine. Like, a lot of people are, I bet I'm going to get a lot of comments. Why are you annotating a special edition? Why not annotate a regular copy? Because I don't want 2 copies of this book. Because I want to annotate it. And because it's pretty. I like it. And plus, you're going to only see it this way, really. I'm not planning on, like, ever showing that. So, I mean, for me, I'm fine with that. And then finally, I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I own it on my Kindle, but because the timing and stuff, I ended up being able to rent it through Libby, and I rated it 3 stars. It was one of those, it was another one, like, honestly, it was good. I did enjoy it, but it didn't like have me as much. But I do love this because the girl was the bodyguard, and he was the famous person that she was bodyguarding. But it was really cool. But I still gave it 3 stars. I'm not saying that I didn't like it because it was serious art. It was just one of those like right in the middle books. And so of course now, currently I'm in the middle of reading Iron Flame. And I do also have the special edition. I don't read my hardcovers with their thingies on it. So I've got the book over on my nightstand. It's got a black cover and it's got the black edges like Fourth Wing does. And it was really cool. I wasn't expecting the black edges on my Iron Flame. But I'm currently reading that. So I read a total of 45 books this in 2023, 19 of which were 5 stars. And so I have made my goal for 2024 to be 50 books. I want to hit an even 50 just because like I had been in and out of reading this year. And honestly, like it was like the last 3 or 4 months that it's like I got down to business. And I think it was also just because of like when I started this channel, I wanted to like read because it's like I wanted to talk to you guys about what I was reading. And so it's been fun actually going over my books with you. And so I hope that you enjoyed. And I hope you found some books that you found interesting that you would like to pick up. Let me know if you had any similar reads to mine. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.